Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, the Devore Wild Fam. Today, oh my goodness. Today we have been doing a ton of yard work. My husband just mowed the front yard and the backyard. We pulled a bunch of weeds. I replanted a ton of seeds. We hammered the greenhouse down, so now it shouldn't be going anywhere. Because if you didn't watch our last video, our greenhouse blew over, well, almost blew over. And we lost a lot of seeds. Anyway, so I planted a ton more, and I thought I would come inside and take a break and have my chamomile tea and chat for a minute. I got like 12 new subscribers since last night, and I was like, oh my gosh, that has never ever happened. We've had this channel, or I've had this channel for almost 2 years now, and I maybe get 5-10 subscribers a month. It was supposed to be a family channel, but they've changed the guidelines, so if I post a lot with my kids, then people can't comment. So I've been starting to change what I talk about and what we do. So I wanted to talk today. Oh, and if you're new here, we live in Idaho. We are transplanted from California. We moved last June, so we've been here almost a year. I have 7 kids, 6 living at home. I have a stepson that still lives in California. He's 19. He's going to school, works at a grocery store. My oldest here is 14, and then my youngest, who is also special needs, is 5. Okay. So I wanted to talk about kind of our journey into being frugal, into frugality. So this might take a little bit. The other day I made a video about how my husband only makes $16 an hour and family 8. And I noticed that I said on the video that we never had really struggled with money, but just never had an abundance of money. I don't know why I said that, because we have definitely struggled, like hardcore struggled, which has led us to the journey that we are on now. I think, like I said that because in my mind, I've never felt poor, and I've never felt like I didn't have the things that I wanted. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not a materialistic person, so it was never like, oh, I wish I had a bigger house. I wish I had a fancier car. But we have hardcore struggled. So I'm going to start from the very beginning. So let's go back to 2006. 2006. I am pregnant, 9 months pregnant with my second child, which is Parker. And Allison who's my oldest, my 19-year-old is my stepson. So I had Allison, who had just turned 1, and I was 9 months pregnant with Parker. They're only 15 months apart. And I was living in Southern California. It's so good. I want to drink it while it's hot. Okay, that's probably gross. Okay, I was living in Southern California with my ex-husband and my mom. We had got a house together, decided to split the rent, and because he worked 20 days out of the month and then he was supposed to be off for 10 days, his job required him to travel a great deal. And we were living in Texas before that, and so with a young kid, or a baby and a baby on the way, I wanted to be closer to my family. So that's why we moved in with my mom, got like a 4-bedroom house, split the rent. And long story short with this, my ex pretty much stopped coming home on his 10 days. And every time I checked the mail, there was insufficient funds in our bank account. My mom was having to pay all the rent. She was having to buy diapers. She was having to put gas in my car. I had WIC at the time, which was helpful, but she had to help buy groceries. Every time I would try to call him and see what was going on, he had some excuse, some lie. And you know how it is when you know that something's wrong, but you feel like if you just ignore it, it'll just go away. So my mom was like, you need to call the banks, see what the heck's going on. And I didn't want to because I knew it was going to be bad. So I did, and it turned out he was just going to like fancy restaurants. He had taken a few trips to like Niagara Falls. I think there was like a cruise somewhere. He was racking up our credit cards. It was bad. It turned out he was having an affair. He got busted for it, and I wanted him out because that would be a whole nother vlog about my ex, because we had like major not good history. Anyways, I wanted him out, and we got a divorce, and he didn't show up for my son's birth, but he showed up a week later to file for the divorce. And he was supposed to pay me child support, and I've never seen a penny. Anyway, so he left, and I found myself alone with 2 kids, and so I was terrified, but I did what I had to do. And I knew since Parker was just born, he was only an infant, I didn't want to go back to work right away because I was breastfeeding. So I went and applied for assistance and got food stamps, and that was really helpful. And then in California, when you apply for cash aid, they make you look for a job. So they gave me like 6 weeks, kind of like a maternity leave. And then I had to start looking for work, which I did. I worked for KinderCare, which is what I used to do before I had kids. It's like a preschool center. I worked there for a month, but where we were living, the commute was too far. I was having a hard time finding a babysitter for my kids, so that didn't work out. And then luckily I got hired on as a substitute for the school district, which was, the school was only like 2 minutes from, well, let me back up. Okay. While I was on like maternity leave and collecting cash aid and food stamps, we didn't renew our lease. It was too expensive for my mom to do. And obviously I didn't make enough on assistance. So she moved to a smaller apartment just for herself. And me, Allison, and Parker moved in with my dad. And he lived in the town that I grew up in as a child. So my sister lives in that town. My dad was there. So he actually converted his garage into like this big bedroom for himself. And he pretty much gave me and the kids run of the house, which was eternally grateful for him doing that. So Allie and Parker had their own room, and I had my own room. There was 2 bathrooms. I mean, obviously my dad came in and used the kitchen and the restroom, and I paid him $100 a month and helped keep the house clean and all that good stuff. So while I was living with my dad and the kids, I got hired on with the school district. So it was like 2 minutes from my house. So it was perfect. And so I did yard duty, and I worked in the library actually with my mom for a while. And then they hired me on full time at the preschool, which was perfect because I also qualified for free daycare for Allie and Parker. So I did that, and I worked there for almost a year, 8 months. And then Adam, who is my husband now, we had gotten back in touch right before my son was born, and we were just friends back and forth. He came to visit a couple times, and long story short with that, we ended up falling in love, and he asked me to move up. We were in I was in Southern California, and my husband was in Northern California. It's about an 8-hour drive. He asked me to move up there with him, me and my kids and my stepson, which my family was not happy about it. And I'm Christian, and I tell my kids I don't recommend this, but that is what we did. we did live together before we got married. So I packed us up, I said goodbye to my job, and I moved in with my husband now. So living with him for a few months, and I get pregnant with my third, Tiffany, and he was a truck driver. He owned his own truck, so it was an end dump. So he would like haul rock and dirt, and he made really good money. He worked for himself. He didn't have a boss. So, we lived in a really, really tiny little house. The kitchen was like so little, like you couldn't even fit a table in there. Most of the time we ate in the living room. It's a cute little house though. Anyway, the economy, 2008, when the economy like crashed. So all of a sudden people aren't building houses, everybody's losing houses. It just tanked, and all of a sudden he was only working like 2-4 times a month. It was really bad. And his truck got repoed. Now this was a truck that he had before I moved in with him. Not to mention, I brought along all the credit card debt from my ex-husband, which was about $120,000 worth of credit card debt, because on a lot of them I made the mistake of making him a shared card holder, and then we had some together. It was bad. He was using it to go places. It was bad. And then we have Adam's debt. Okay, so we have all this debt together, and then he gets his truck, not his truck that he used for work, but just his regular pickup truck. He got that repoed. And by this time we had moved into like a little bit bigger house. We were still renting. We moved twice. Somebody from our church offered us another house that was even cheaper rent, so we ended up moving 3 times in like a year. Yeah, I mean, he was working here and there. He started to work for somebody else driving, but there just wasn't any work. So we struggled to pay our bills. We struggled to pay our rent. We did receive food stamps. We didn't want to go on cash aid. We tried. I babysat. So I did actually get paid from the state because I babysat 3 kids who were actually my stepson's siblings. So I picked them up from school every day, and they came and helped them with homework and snack and all that stuff. So I probably made like, I don't know, between $300 and $400 a month, I think. Wasn't much, but it was like grocery money. I mean, we never went on vacations. We've never like went and just blown our money on like new cars and anything like that. So finally we came to the conclusion. So this is 2009. So no, 2011. So I've jumped from 2006 to 2011. So by this time now, I have 6 kids counting my stepson. So I had Tiffany with Adam, and then we had Wesley a year later in 2009, because I had Tiffany in 2008, Wesley in 2009, and then I had Jillian in 2011. And while I was pregnant with Jillian, when his truck got repoed and there was no work with the big truck, like driving, he did odd and end jobs. He worked for his ex-father-in-law. I forget even what that job, what he was called, a yard hustler. I don't even know what he did, but it made like $12 an hour. And I was still babysitting, and he worked for this company called Pinnell, where he drove a truck collecting cherries, and we never saw him. He worked like 15-hour days at like $10 an hour, or it was like by the load, but he had to drive like really, really far. We just couldn't keep up. I feel like because we had so much credit card debt between the two of us, and by this time we had gotten married too. Hold on. Yeah. Sorry. By this time we got married in 2010. And so we didn't have any credit cards yet together. We just still had a lot of debt. It was just ugly. We just couldn't make ends meet. So we made the decision to move. My sister and my brother-in-law said, hey, why don't you move in with us? We have a big extra room. Bring all the kids. We won't charge you rent. Get on your feet. Adam, my brother-in-law, is an electrician. And he said Adam can enroll in the school. He's smart. He can do it. Become an electrician. They make really good money. It's a 5 years for school. Live with us till you get on your feet. All that jazz. So my family was super excited, but his family is from Northern California, so they were really sad to see us go, but we felt like we didn't really have a choice, because every month we were becoming late on our rent, and luckily our landlords went to our church and they understood our situation, and 1 month, like for Christmas, they didn't even charge us rent. So we've always been lucky in that sense, and I've always been so grateful. And we always had really small Christmases, and I've always done, I always do birthdays for my kids, but it's just very simple and very frugal and mindful. No big extravagant like parties or anything. So Jillian, who was my newest child, was only a month old when we moved from Northern California back to Southern California. Well, for me, it was back to Southern California, and we moved in with my sister. And Adam enrolled in electrician school, and he got accepted, and he started to work right away as an apprentice. And he went to school the first 2 years he went to school on Saturdays, and his job was really good at that time. He was doing solar panels. He was working out in Desert Center in California. So even though he had to get up at 3:30 in the morning, they bussed him out there. So he would drive to like Indio, like 30 minutes from our house, and then they would bus him to Desert Center so he was able to nap on the bus, work, and then same thing on the way home. And then he had Fridays off, which was awesome. I missed that. And then he did school for 8 hours on Saturday. Lived with my sister for a year, filed for bankruptcy because we didn't feel like we had a choice. Got all that wiped out, taken care of, and we knew it would be on, what's it called, like for 7 years or whatever till it falls off. Filed for bankruptcy after a year living with my sister and really saving money. So we were even frugal back then. Like, I didn't take that we didn't have rent for granted. Like, we saved every penny. We had a 15-passenger Ford Econoline van. This thing was it was huge. I mean, it seated 15. I needed it because I had car seats. All my kids were in car seats and diapers, I felt like. It was a 96, and we ran that thing to the ground until last year. It finally, right before we moved here, it finally died, and that's when we finally had to get something else. But we're gonna pay what we have now off as soon as the settlement check comes in. Anyway. Okay, so I hope that it lets me post this, because every time I try to post like a longer video, it doesn't work for some reason. I might have to make this 2 parts. We'll see. Anyway, so we lived with my sister for a year, and it was hard, but worth it because we saved money. And it just so happened that God was watching out for us. The house right across the street from us went up for rent, and we knew the landlords, so we got it. So we were paying $12.50 for a 5-bedroom house, huge house, right across the street from my sister. So easy. So we went and got our stuff out of storage, and in one day we had everything moved and packed. We didn't have a lot of stuff. And we lived there for 5 years, and things were going good. Like, he wasn't making a ton of money as an apprentice. I think he started off at, I want to say 17 or 18 an hour. Then every year they get a raise. But yeah, we were doing really good. We didn't have any, we had a few credit cards again by like 4 years after the bankruptcy. Just the same ones we have now, like was the Kohl's, the Capital One, Home Depot. I still was really mindful when we grocery shopped. We didn't go out a lot. There we really couldn't go out because there was nothing. In the town we were living in, it was like boonies. There was nothing, nothing nearby. It was like 20 minutes to the nearest grocery store. So that actually helped, because it can't be like, oh, I'm craving, Taco Bell, and couldn't do that there. So yeah, we saved a lot of money, and those 5 years they were good. I mean, there was a couple times where he was out of work for if a job ended and he had to re-sign the books, like he'd be out of work for like a month. But we had put stuff in savings, so we were okay. So again, simple Christmases, simple birthdays. Only vacations we took were to drive up to Northern California to see his family. And by this time, I'd had Kennedy. I had my youngest. Well, when we moved from Northern to Southern California in with my sister, my stepson did not move with us because his mom is in Northern California. So he would come and visit like on the summers and Christmas vacation and that kind of stuff. Well, 5 years go by and Adam graduates from the electrician school, and it's like a big deal. Like, they have a really formal graduation. We got to dress up, and he won Apprentice of the Year for all 5 years. He had the top GPA for all 5 years. So he got a plaque and a really nice set of tools and a really nice jacket. So now he's a journeyman. So now he gets like a major raise. So we decided, we both decided that we wanted to be closer to my stepson. And at the time, so this is 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now, there was a ton of work in the Bay Area for electricians, and they got paid the most. San Francisco journeymen for the IBEW make $70 an hour. But the Bay Area is, I think, the most expensive city to live in the United States. So we moved again, which killed my family. But his family was happy because we were coming back. So we moved back to this little town called Lathrop, which was about 10 minutes from the last place we had moved. And we were closer to my stepson, and the only downfall was he didn't get hired in San Francisco, but near it. So he was making like $54 an hour or 56, I can't remember. He was still making good money, but he had to commute. It was long. We never saw him. There was bad traffic. So we moved. When we first moved, we also had to live with my in-laws and my brother-in-law for a month until we were able to rent a house. So that was hard. Again, though, that let us save money for a down payment, for like the security deposit. Like nothing like that we ever put on credit cards or anything. And so we finally got our house in October, and I was like, okay, things are good. He's a journeyman. He's making fabulous money. It sucked about the commute. Like I felt bad for him. I got my kids enrolled in school. Around this time, I was getting services set up for Kennedy because she is autistic and ADHD. She just has a lot of issues. So from October to March, things are great. Kind of. I mean, it really was hard. The commute for him sometimes it took him 3.5 hours to get home at night. Credit cards were all paid off. I mean, we had them open still, but there was like nothing. We were able to pay everything super easy. Our rent was $2,500 a month, and we were able to pay that no problem with his income. Then he fell, and he got hurt really bad. He had to have 2 surgeries, and he was not able to go back to being an electrician. I don't know if he ever will be able to go back to being an electrician. So he had to go on disability. And like I said in my other video, we learned real quick that disability does not cover cost of living in that area. We didn't want to move back to Southern California because honestly it was getting just as bad. So we looked at South Carolina. We almost did it. We almost moved to Greenville. We chickened out at the last minute because we didn't want to be that far away from our families. Right now, from his family, from where we are in Idaho, from Northern California, it's probably a 10-hour drive. And then from my family, you want to tack on probably an extra 6 hours. But it's still doable. They can still drive. If we had moved to the Carolinas, you would have had to fly. It would have been harder to move out there. It would have cost more to move out there. Anyway, so we picked here. I mean, my nephew's in Boise. That's too expensive for us. I had a friend that used to live in Lathrop, that used to live in Northern California, that moved here to the Idaho Falls area, and she actually reached out to me and said, there's a lot of houses for rent. It's really cheap. I think you guys would really like it here. Really family oriented. It is a huge LDS community, and we are not LDS, but this community is actually amazing. Anyway, she actually sent me the link to the house we are in now. And because we always came across the trouble when we tried to rent, that nobody wanted to rent to us because we have a lot of kids. Not a problem here because everybody, I'm not trying to like be stereotype, but like everybody has a lot of kids like where we live. Everybody assumes that we're LDS because we have so many kids. Anyway, yes. Anyways, okay, so we sold everything we owned, like everything. I think I said that in the last vlog. We bought like our clothes, one dresser that my sister bought me, and our TVs, and a couple mattresses. Everything else went. Oh my gosh, I got rid of so much stuff. We didn't bring any furniture. We hardly brought any dishes. I didn't like my dishes, so I was like, don't want them, don't need them. So we moved here last June. And he was still on disability, and we absolutely love it here. My oldest is having trouble. She's 14. And it's hard because she had to leave her friends like twice now because we moved from Southern California to Northern California. I mean, it's just hard, and she's a teenager, and it's a big adjustment. Anyway, that's off the subject. So we moved here. This house is older, but our rent is so much cheaper, and just we really like it. But then back in November, right after Thanksgiving, and we did have some money in savings, but we spent a lot of it when we moved here, like our tax return and stuff. A lot of it went to getting us here. So after Thanksgiving, he had to have another surgery on his hand. And for some reason, the stuff with his disability got messed up, and they ended it. Like all of a sudden, like the day we're supposed to get paid, there's no money. And so it took, you know how it is to get a hold of people, especially with like disability or unemployment. Like it's like a waiting game and trying to get through, and you have to call 50 million times, and it was terrible. And I think it took him almost a week and a half before he finally got through to somebody, or they called him back, or he's like, we have no paycheck. And they're like, oh, it ended. You no longer are eligible. He's like, well, I just had surgery. Like, why? It was just this big, giant mix up because one of the doctors misunderstood and wrote something different on a paper. I don't even know. It was just ugly. Well, let me tell you, our savings went really fast after that. Basically, it paid one of our rents and some groceries and like our bills. And then we were left with nothing. And again, we only had a little bit on our credit cards, but now we have a car payment. So it was scary. My husband wasn't paying child support anymore because my stepson's 19. But we just had no money. And so when I said that we've never struggled, we have. I think probably this time was the scariest time because we really had nothing and we had no family nearby. That outpour and love from the community, I don't even know how people knew. I went to the grocery store once, and I ran into one of the neighbors, and he asked how Adam's hand was doing. We just got to talking, and I think Adam mentioned, oh yeah, they cut my disability off, and he must have went and told the school. I don't even know how it happened. It's just, that's how God works. Like, people from our church found out, our neighborhood found out, and the love from this community. I woke up one morning to a ton. I'm not talking like 4 or 5 bags of groceries. I'm talking a ton of groceries. It covered our front porch. Yes. Anyways, it covered our front porch. So much food. It was unbelievable. And plus there was an envelope with like $300 and something or $400 and something of cash. Our church gave us gift cards to grocery stores. Our church was helping us not just with food, but people were donated laundry soap and dish soap and like feminine products and toilet paper and just all this stuff. It was amazing. Even like clothes for the kids. And then, oh my goodness, the kids' school found out, and between the school and our church and then stuff from family, that provided Christmas for our family, because we wouldn't have been able to buy them anything. And I from my ex-husband's grandmother, she does send me $600 every Christmas. So like $100 for each kid. So I knew I could use a little bit of that, but I really didn't want to spend that all on Christmas because we had no money. And so I was like, oh, we might need it for groceries or a bill. We did apply for food stamps, so obviously we were accepted, so that was good. And then the food from the neighborhood, like, I didn't want to use that $600 on Christmas. It was sad, but I had to pay our bills. And then we had to have his parents and my mom help us pay our rent one month. It was scary. But I never felt deprived. I was attacked a couple times on Facebook for not running out and getting a job. But, I'm sorry. I have 6 kids, and one of them is special needs. And sometimes I have to go to the school to help calm her down. And it's just, I don't feel like, I actually did start applying for jobs and nobody would hire me. And I really think that was God's will. Like, it's not the time for me to go back to work. So I started baking from scratch, everything from scratch again. I started watching frugal channels again. I just started reading books on how to save money. I didn't want to be, he ended up getting his disability back. They fixed it. So for like 2 months it was like that. And then by February they had fixed it and we got it back for 1 month. Okay. But during that time, he took a job as a bus driver for the school district and he only made $11 an hour. And it was only part-time because he just had surgery. So there wasn't a whole lot he could do. Now, if you're wondering what happened, he fell on a nail plate. It's like a spike. It's like this big that sticks out of a plate like this long. He was holding it and it went through his work glove and everything. So it punctured all the tendons right here in his right hand. Well, he's right-handed. That's what electricians do. They use tools. So he just had surgery, so he figured, well, I can drive a school bus while I'm healing. He also had to go to physical therapy every single day after surgery for like a month and a half. So then things started getting better. So he was driving for the bus, got her disability back, started to get caught up. We didn't get a really big tax return because he was on disability. This is a long story, but I worked 3 days at the school as a yard duty. It's way back in our vlogs. So because I worked those 3 days, we actually got a $900 tax return. So we put that in savings, and I just got to thinking that I don't want to ever be in that situation again where I have to call my mom and be like, can you pay our rent? We even had my niece, like people from our church in Southern California, but were even sending money because it was so bad. And I'm grateful, but I don't ever want to be in that situation ever again because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, my husband made $54 an hour. And then he fell. Crap happens. And you need to be prepared. And we were not prepared. We were not prepared. So no, we never went out and bought new cars and huge houses and fancy clothes, and I didn't shop at like super expensive grocery stores and make gourmet meals and go out to eat all the time. We didn't do any of that ever, ever. But we still didn't have enough in savings. I feel like we were still living kind of beyond our means. I mean, not really, but money goes fast if you're not careful with it. Even though we were careful, it was just bad. And I don't ever want to be in that situation again, which is why I'm talking to you right now. This is kind of our journey. Like he doesn't want to be in that situation either. 'Cause it sucked. So he, when disability ended this time, at least we knew it was going to be ending. And so he got a job. So he's working for Coca-Cola. He makes $16 an hour. And, when the disability came back, they back paid him. So maybe we didn't have it for from the middle of November, and then we got it back in February. So for that amount of time, we were with no income. Because he got hired with the school bus right before Christmas break, but they only get paid once a month. So he didn't even see his first paycheck until, it was actually February 20th. He saw that first paycheck because he got hired, but he couldn't start until after the break. So it was like January something that he actually started driving. Anyway, so we got back paid for the mistake that they made, which was great. That money is still sitting in our savings account because we don't want to be in the situation again. What's going on? And then we got the stimulus check, which was pretty big because I have 6 kids. And we paid off some of our credit cards. We bought the greenhouse, and I decided that we were going to plant a freaking garden. We've had gardens before, and I feel like every time we've had huge gardens. I feel like every time we've planted a garden, we've moved. And since we're renting, and I think we'll probably rent this place for another year and either rent somewhere else or try to buy a house. I really want to buy a house. but we really need to save money for that. Anyway, we wanted to do a container garden, so that's what we're doing. I planted so many more seeds today. I want to be self-sustainable. I don't want to have to call my mom or call his parents and be like, we need help. I don't want to be that anymore. I don't want to need help anymore. So I want to do everything I can to put money away and not blow it. That's why I'm so adamant about when we get his settlement money, because he did get hurt at work. So we will be seeing probably close to $30,000 on his settlement. I mean, that's what the lawyer's telling us. I'm paying off the car. We owe, I think, $13,000, $12,000 on the car. I want to pay it off. I don't want a car payment. I want to pay off. I do want to keep our Kohl's credit card and maybe one other one. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I like knowing that they're there. We've never been like bad with our credit cards. We almost were bad with our Capital One card. We almost had to put our rent on it, but that's when I called my mom and his mom. But I just want the basics. Again, we've done things. We've cut like Hulu. We got different internet now, and he found a cheaper car and renter's insurance. We took my older kids' cell phones away. Now, if we do get it back, I'm gonna get probably prepaid or get them a flip phone. And you know what? Like they were upset, but they got over it really fast. I mean, because we have the computers and stuff, and so if I do get them a phone, it'll be something like that. They just don't need they don't need an iPhone or anything like that. They just, I mean, they think they do, but they don't. One of the things that we did buy with some of the stimulus money was me and Adam got bikes. And I bought my daughter Jillian a bike, and then my daughter Tiffany's birthday is coming up, so I'll be getting her a bike, and then we'll all have bikes. And that's something we can do as a family, is ride bikes together. And we actually, where we live, and because my bike has that big basket, I don't know if you've seen it, I'll have to show you guys. It's got a huge basket on the front. I can actually ride my bike to Albertsons, which is down the street. And if I need to get like some apples or just some almond milk or something, don't even gotta take the car. I can just, have hiccups. I could just ride my bike there. We do most of our shopping though at Winco. We typically shop, oh my goodness, every 2 weeks. Unless I run out of things like produce. And like I mentioned before, I make bread once a week. I make cookies from scratch, muffins from scratch, all that good stuff. And I love coffee with Kate. Like, I feel like we just have so much in common. Like, she talks about her past and how she was kind of wild. And I'm like, you don't even know how wild my 20s were. It was bad. But just that whole homemaker life, like, I don't want to go back to work. And that's another thing. We found out my daughter just got her official diagnosis back in January. And we found out that we can get Social Security for her. And this thing called the Katie Beckett program, I think that's what it's called, where I actually will get paid to stay home with her. So for all those people that attacked me on Facebook and said, you just got to do what you got to do. No. If you don't have a special needs child, you don't know what the heck you're talking about, because it is not easy to just run out and get a job. So there are programs out there so I can get paid to stay home with her, even though she is in school, because she's going to have occupational therapy, behavioral therapy. She meets with the counselor once a week, like a child psychologist. Yes? No, I'm not. I'll open the door in 1 minute, Kate. That's her. You want to go outside? Okay, 1 minute, okay? Hold on. Oh my goodness, who got you dressed up? Who dressed you in that? Did Tiffany? Or did Gigi? Tiffany did? Where are you going? You look beautiful.
Open the door.
Well, I'll come outside with you in 1 minute, okay?
Yes, Mom.
In a minute, Kay. I'm almost done. Okay, 1 minute. I know, you look like a princess. Okay. Anyway, so I love Coffee with Kate. She's like my favorite YouTuber. She inspires me immensely, like so much. Anyway, that's our story. Like, we've had some bad luck, but I've never felt deprived. I've felt scared, which is why I'm on this journey, and I've gotten all these books from the library, and I follow Coffee with Kate, and I take all of her advice, and I like following what is it? Dining on a Dime to get, what is it called? I can never remember their whole channel name. It's Dining on a Dime to Get Rich. Is that what it is? I have their cookbook, which I absolutely adore, and I like all their advice too. I like Homestead Tessie. I like the Fairyland Cottage. We were plant-based for 2 years. And we eventually might go back to it. I didn't mind it, but I had to go to an outpatient clinic for eating disorder. That's a whole nother story though. But anyway, they had me eating. They didn't want me doing plant-based because they thought maybe it's because I was trying to restrict stuff. I know I don't look like I have an eating disorder, so please don't make comments about that if you comment at all. But yeah, please comment about everything else, because I'd love more advice. And I know I kind of rambled and maybe none of this made sense, but I just know I don't want to be in that situation again. Yes, we have definitely struggled, but I feel happy. Like, I'm not saying I don't ever get depressed but I love my kids. I love my husband. I mean, we fight. Oh my goodness, do we fight sometimes. And he is a spender. Like, every credit card we have is because of him. If I had my way, we'd have no credit cards except the Kohl's card. I just like the Kohl's card. It pays for itself. Like, it's so easy to pay off. He's a spender. And so this journey is harder for him than it is for me. He wants a motorcycle, and he wants a brand new truck, and he just wants. Where I don't. I'm happy shopping at thrift stores and driving used cars. And he knows that we can't get that stuff. Like, he knows that, but like, I have a feeling if he made good money again, that it might get ugly. But right now, we seem to be on the same page. We both agree that when a settlement comes, we will pay off the car, and he will sell our other car, which we owe nothing on, and his parents actually gave it to us. He'll trade it in and buy cash for like a used truck, something that's got four-wheel drive on it. But yeah, that's our story. Morning glory. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, I better go. They keep knocking on the door, and I gotta make dinner. Actually, we're just having leftovers. We have leftover beef stew. Yeah, I think that's all. Oh yeah, and we have some leftover. No, we don't. Yeah, I was gonna say we have leftover taco meat, but we don't. We just have leftover beef stew. So we'll probably eat that, and I don't know, maybe I'll make some soup or something simple and quick, because we still have some work to do outside. I will see you next time. Thanks so much if you just subscribed to my channel. A lot of times you will see my kids in and out of the clips. I can't help it. We're homeschooling right now because of everything going on, and I love my kids, and I'm not ashamed to show them, but I won't probably show them as much because, like I said, if I do, then you can't comment. So I'm hoping to grow a community, and leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up if you want to. I don't even know. All right, guys, chicken tendies. See you later. Oh, the chicken tendy thing, you'll have to go way back to like 2 years ago to figure out the story for that. Bye, guys. Oh, here's a little PS. I took my glasses off. I can't see. So this channel is going to be starting to be more about, like I said, my kids will be in it, but I'll do like what I cook in a week. Like, if you guys want to see that, I'll show you our garden, how I clean, how I manage our laundry for such a large family, how we get by with $16 an hour, how we budget. Those are all going to be like upcoming videos, so stay tuned.